question to you. If you've got school-age kids at home, riddle me this. Does it ever seem when they've got homework, it's like you've got homework too?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be that.
So we all want to support our kids, and we try to do that the best we can. But when it comes to homework, I kind of feel like we could all use a lesson on what to do and how best to help. Here with the answers is parenting writer, teacher, and I have to say my good friend, Ms. Kate Winn.
Let's start with timing. So homework, kids get it, they come home. What do you recommend is the best time of the afternoon or evening to do homework?
So the sooner the better, but of course every family's schedule is different. A lot of kids will need to have something to eat, burn off some energy before they sit down again. I just definitely would not leave it until before bedtime when emotions may be running high for the kids as well as for the parents. And I know we're always saying, it's so important for kids to be in routine, but don't be too hard on yourselves when, schedules need to be flexible too, because it's important for kids to learn that as well.
Okay, location. Where should kids be doing their homework?
I think there's a bit of a misconception that the bedroom alone is always the best place. And we know now that kids' bedrooms are not as distraction-free as they used to be. A lot of times kids work really well in a more central location, maybe kitchen table when there's an adult sort of around. Make sure you've got the supplies there that they need so they're not going from room to room to get things for each question. And parents often ask whether it's okay to have music on in the background. And I think if your child works well with music on, then absolutely. We have classical music on sometimes at school for them to work with, but that might not be the same music they're asking for at home.
Right.
Okay, so my kids are 4 and 11. I have a 4-year-old Dash and an 11-year-old Blaze. So obviously at different ages. That's Dash with his wheat bouquet. Love the kid. There's my Blazy.
And P.S. the best names of your kids ever.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. But it's like, how much should kids have when it comes to homework? I'm talking volume.
So unless your school board or school is one of the few that has a no homework policy, it's really up to the discretion of individual teachers. And a commonly accepted guideline is 10 minutes per year of the child's grade. So for example, a grade 4 student might work for an average of 40 minutes a night. Now, if you find that your child's working more than that or more than is manageable at home, definitely talk to the teacher. And I know on this show we're always so big on being social, but in this case, you should really talk privately to the teacher, and please don't air your frustrations on social media.
Do parents do that?
It happens.
Oh, my.
That's not cool. No. Okay, what about help? Because we want our kids to be independent, right, Kate? But at the same time, if they need help, we want to give it to them. How much is expected? At my place, it is homework by committee. Because if I don't know something, I am not afraid to ask the woman there with the glasses on her head, my sister, or the girl standing next to her in the picture is my youngest niece, Sari, because she's proficient in French. If I need help, I'm making phone calls. Right. So that's what happens at our place. But what do teachers expect?
So unless, in my case, I might ask parents to work on a specific thing with their children, but other than that, I really do expect kids to be pretty independent. And I recommend the drive-by approach to helping with homework. So while your kids are working, if they have a question, you can kind of swoop in, answer the question, and then move along. I feel like if you pull up a chair, you're giving your kids the message that you're taking some sort of responsibility or ownership and that you're going to be there for the duration, which doesn't need to be the case.
Ooh, that one's going to hit a lot of parents, for sure.
For sure.
So we saw Tracy Melshore earlier. She is in Winnipeg, but when she heard you were coming, she says, I've got a question for Kate. So this comes from Tracy Melshore. She says that math is not her subject. And as we've all learned this entire week here on the show, she's having an issue with long division in one of her kids' classes. We've been hearing about the long division woes for 6 days straight here. She says she's really stressed. And she says when it comes to math, she says she can't really, how can she help if she's not really good at, in this case, math herself?
So Tracy is not alone. There are a lot of parents out there that are just paralyzed by their own math anxiety and have a hard time helping their kids. And, excuse me. It's important to look things over yourself before you get started. And you might want to read over the textbook, see what the lesson was for that day. You might want to look at the worksheet, what the questions are there. You might want to do this without your child sitting down your neck, waiting for you to get started on the homework. But that said, it's not a bad thing for your kids to see you learning or relearning along with them. For you to say, I forget what isosceles means, so let's go Google it. It's actually better for them to see that than for you to just kind of throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm not a math person and I'm out.
It's okay not to know.
And like you said too, committee. If you have other adults or others willing to help, then absolutely take advantage of that too.
Isosceles, 3 angles under 90 degrees. Is that right?
Sure.
Sounds
I don't know. I'm trying to relearn as we're doing this segment.
And I love the point that you made. Listen, if you don't know, it's okay for your kids to see you not knowing.
Absolutely.
And to do the work and put in the work with them, because there's a lesson in that, right? That mom or dad or caregiver may not know everything, and that's okay. Because kids always see us as knowing everything.
It's true.
And it is a disaster if we don't.
It's true.
Not
It's
much,
true.
though.
It's true. There's another question I know from a viewer named Leah, and Leah writes, how can I effectively do homework with my 8-year-old without him shutting down or getting frustrated? So this is a tough one because it could be a bone of contention and stress between parent and child. How do you overcome that?
So it's important to remember that a lot of kids know how to play their parents. And I know a little girl, I won't say who, but sometimes she can be dramatic about work that she's doing at home. And I have heard things like, if you really loved me, you would just tell me the answers. So,
Really?
things like that happen, yes. But some kids, just the natural reward if you kind of implement that work comes before play, whether it's chores or homework, and that they get their screen time or their socializing after they're done. Sometimes experts or parents might recommend something a little more structured, like little sticker charts. You set goals related to homework, doing it without fighting, have incentives at the end of the week if they reach those goals. That's the kind of thing, though, that it reminds me of when you give Smarties for potty training. You're just going to do that until you get into the good habits, and then you're going to wean them off it so you're not doing it for the rest of their school careers.
Yeah.
Another question for you, Kate, if we can. What about children with learning disabilities? And this is a big one. If your child has ADHD or has dyslexia, how can you help them when they get frustrated?
For sure, and it can be difficult. I mean, in the case of ADHD, you know your child best. A lot of breaks when you're working, like work for 10, break for 5. Timers can be helpful so the kids know how much time there is left to work. And remember, homework doesn't have to be one size fits all. So talk to the teacher, because maybe your child is better off doing fewer questions at home. Maybe there are some subjects where you can scribe their answers. For some kids, just getting that down on paper is their biggest thing. So just see what can be accommodated for your child.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk about what would you say if there's one thing to any parent who's watching right now, what's your number one piece of advice to pass along?
So when my kids solve math problems, we often gather together and talk about all the different strategies they use to solve the problem. And at the start of the year, I'll say, well, who solved it the right way? And they learn that that's a trick question because there's so many ways of doing it right. And I think that's the same with a lot of aspects of parenting too. And so in this case with homework, if your routine is working for you, your kids are doing their homework well and independently, then you're doing it right. And parents need to hear that more often, that they're doing a great job. And then in this case, teachers really do appreciate that support from home.
For sure. Kate, this is always so enlightening. Thanks for being with us again.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right, there's your own homework. You can get a recap of all of this helpful advice at thesocial.ca once the show wraps up today. We'll be right back after this.